Good evening, everybody. Happy Wednesday. This is Andrew Scott again, and this is the first time doing my Bible study. This is the first time me doing my Bible study, and this is about the three leadership lessons from Daniel in chapter 1. So right now I feel led because I've been studying Daniel. You guys been leading me to study Daniel lately, and I feel like this is a no greater time right now with, things that are going on in my life and in our lives, and I feel led to share them because these are such rich principles and such important wisdom, key things that we can apply in our everyday lives from Daniel. So praying that we all have our ears to hear and hearts to receive. We're able to use this in our lives and God be glorified. All right, so let's get started. So in Daniel chapter 1, there's so many great things, so many great nuggets. So first let me ask, how many times has it been in your life where it feels that there's so many challenges, so many circumstances where it feels like, man, it feels like I take one step forward and I take two steps back. Like I'm doing the right thing, and I'm doing X, Y, and Z. I'm doing the right thing, the godly thing. I'm doing was commendable and everything. But that's when it seems like there's turbulence, or that's when it seems like there's opposition, or it might seem like there's a hater or more haters that come up and things of that nature. So we can learn a lot from Daniel. So in Daniel chapter 1, I got my Bible. This is my favorite Bible. This is the Maxwell Leadership Bible. This is an awesome Bible, by the way. This is by C. Maxwell, the great John Maxwell. He has like different notes and different things, his own perspective, leadership perspective, and nuggets that he has in this Bible as well. So just to an overview in Daniel chapter 1, it talks about in the third year in the reign of the king of Judah, Nebuchadnezzar. Now, as you read more about it, the king Nebuchadnezzar, he was very arrogant. He was very cocky. He had a lot of growing to do. He had a lot of things where he had to be humble, and we're going to get to those things later. But pretty much it talks about, he had appointed for his people, his nobles and young men that he was looking for, and it said in verse 4, they were young men, there was no blemish, but good looking, gifted in all wisdom, possessing knowledge, and quick to understand, who had ability to serve in the king's palace, whom they might teach the language and literature of the Chaldeans. And he pretty much appointed them daily provision of the king's delicacies and of the wine which he drank, and 3 years of training for them, so that at the end of that time they might serve before the king. This was from the king instructed Ashpenaz, the master of the eunuchs. And so pretty much his job, the chief eunuch, the master of his eunuchs, he was supposed to get together from the king's instruction to get the great men who were able to who were very competent, who were very skilled, who were very wise, things of that nature. And it was basically, there were the original names, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, and they were later be renamed or nicknamed Shadrach, as we know, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And basically, in verse 8, Daniel purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with the portion of the king's delicacies, nor with the wine which he drank. Therefore he requested of the chief of the eunuchs that he might not defile himself, because Daniel was very focused, and there's so many things that we can look at as far as dieting and nutrition. We can look at nowadays, because there's a lot of misconceptions or a lot of narratives about, okay, you have to overly consume meat and beef and pork, and research has shown that those things are not the healthiest. But that's another story for another day. That's a different video. So verse 9, now God had brought Daniel to the favor and goodwill of the chief of the eunuchs. And the chief of the eunuchs said to Daniel, I fear my lord, the king, who has appointed your food and drink. For why should he see your faces looking worse than young men who are your age? And you would endanger my head before the king. So Daniel said to the steward, whom the chief of the eunuchs had set over Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, please test your servants for 10 days, and let them drink, and let them give us vegetables to eat and water to drink. Then let our appearance be examined before you, and the appearance of the young men who eat the portion of the king's delicacies, and as you see fit, so deal with your servants. So he consented with them in this matter and tested them 10 days. So let's pause right there. So there are three leadership lessons from Daniel from this that I want to point out, I want to emphasize. So the first thing is Daniel exemplified already his commitment. He was committed to eating vegetables and eating and drinking water, and he did not want to indulge in the king's delicacies and other wine in which he drank. And the drink, and because he said, and then he said because of the appearance, that would affect their appearance, and it would affect his his mental well-being and his physical appearance. So he had commitment, and there are so many different ways, and throughout the chapter of Daniel, where he exemplified commitment. And as you see later on, that we're going to go on in a separate video on part 2, and things of that nature, where he showed his commitment, where he would pray day and night, 3 times a day, regardless, even in every level. It seemed like there was more opposition. Every time he got promoted, every time he got elevated, or even slightly elevated, there was a promotion, there was an open door, there was more adversity, and there was more opposition. So remember that. So back to chapter 1. So in verse 15, at the end of the 10 days, their features appear better and fatter in flesh than all the young men who ate the portion of the king's delicacies. So number 2, the second skill that Daniel exemplified is negotiation skills. This is so important whether you are in business, leadership, with your family, with your friends. This is, in the practical sense, this is important because he showed his commitment. Because how many times are you in your workplace, or you're in business, or you're somewhere, and it seems like I don't want to say pressure, you're tempted, or you're persuaded, or you're expected to do some things that are outside of your norm, or outside of your beliefs, or something outside of your what's the right word I want to use? Something outside of that you normally do, that other people might do, or that they expect you to do. Daniel first showed commitment, and the second thing he showed negotiation. He said, "Look, I'm not with the delicacies and the wine and everything. That doesn't work for me. He was like, all right, let's make a deal. Let's compromise. How about you give me 10 days? You give me and my dogs. I'm paraphrasing. You giving me and my homies. You giving me and my friends, my companions, 10 days. Give us thou 10 days to see how we can do, and test us in this to see if we are as strong, that we are as fast, that we are as strong, that we are as great in appearance as other people that you have." So the guy was like, all right, cool, I'm going to give you 10 days. And after those 10 days, if you not hold up your end of the bargain, then, you got to go back to the standard. You got to eat. You got to go back to the set of rules, to the procedures of what King Nebuchadnezzar wants. And Daniel was able to prove that to the head eunuch that he was right. So it shows in verse 16 or 15, at the end of the 10 days, their features appeared better and fatter in flesh than all the young men who ate the portion of the king's delicacies. And verse 16, thus the steward took away their portion of delicacies and the wine that they were to drink, and gave them vegetables. So after he proved them, after they had the agreement, he was able to oblige to Daniel's request, because he proved that he could do what he needed to do, his way, his commitments, and what his morals were. So verse 17 is, with these 4 young men, God gave them, check this out, God gave them knowledge and skill in all literature and wisdom, and Daniel had understanding in all visions and dreams. All right, pause right there. Because Daniel showed commitment, and he showed excellence, and he showed his negotiation skills. That was the first step, the first open door for God to use him, to set him up on the trajectory to elevate him. That was the first. Now there's gonna be some more to it. But because of that, because Daniel was committed and he had negotiation skills and he stuck to his morals, God blessed. That was the start of God blessing him. If you go to verse 17 in Daniel chapter 1. As for these four young men, Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, God gave them knowledge and skill in all literature and wisdom, and then they had understanding in all visions and dreams. That's what Daniel is mainly known for in the Bible, because he was known for interpreting visions and dreams, and he had a bunch of courage. We're going to talk about more about Daniel in the lion's den later on. The fiery furnace, that's on down the line. So hold on, pump the brakes. So 18, now at the end of the days, when the king had said they should be brought in, the chief of the eunuchs brought them in before Nebuchadnezzar. Then the king interviewed them, and among them all none was found. Check this out. None of them were found, or none was found like Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. Therefore they served before the king. And in all matters of wisdom and understanding about which the king examined them, he found them 10 times better than all the magicians and astrologers who were in his realm. Thus Daniel continued to the first year of King Cyrus. So check this out. How many times do we, do y'all, do I, do we, all of us together, feel like, man, I'm in this workplace, everybody doing like this, X, Y, and Z. I'm standing out, not saying, putting nothing on anybody else, but like, hey, I'm trying to do the right thing. I'm trying to do the godly thing. It seems like everybody else doing their own thing. They doing a thing that's not considered the most godly things. And you don't feel like you don't want to be sticking out like a sore thumb, or you don't want to feel like, the movie Training Day, when Jake was with Alonzo, Denzel's character, and then when they all were, Jake was a good cop. And in the movie, as you see with Denzel and the other Dr. Dre and all them, they were the not so good cops. And whenever they're doing something wrong or immoral or, not with much character or integrity, Jake stood up and he was like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to take this money, or this is not right. And they looked at him like, hold up, bro. Like, what's up with him? What's up with your boy? Like, is he going, he's not with us. Like, he's too clean. He's too squeaky clean. And they kind of isolated him or ostracized him. So how many times do we feel like that sometimes when we're in the workplace or we're in business or something, or we're out with our friends or something? Don't be afraid to do the right thing, because I'm telling you, and if you honor God, He's going to honor you. If you stay committed to God, He's going to be committed to you. So remember that. And the third thing, which leads me to my third point, my third leadership skill that Daniel exemplified. Daniel showed integrity. He didn't try to sneak and hide from the head eunuch. He didn't try to, lie to him. He didn't try to hide from him. He said, look, this is what it is. This is my diet. This is what I believe in. And then go back. Let's compromise. Let's negotiate after these 10 days. God blessed them because David was committed. He was able to communicate and articulate through negotiation skills, and Daniel ultimately showed integrity. That was the first step, the first open door for God to use him and to bless him. So remember that. The next time you're somewhere and you feel like, man, this is too hard. Peer pressure, that ain't even no teen thing, no kid thing. We as adults, that be happening, especially like in the workplace or we out with our friends or something. Let's be real. Let's call a spade, or whatever you want to call it. Let's be transparent. That happens. But remember, it showed in the Bible, God blessed Daniel. That was the start of God blessing Daniel. And as we see, they were 10 times better than the other people, than the magicians and the astrologers, the people the other people who were in all the extra stuff. But that was the first step and the first test of many that Daniel had to endure. So if you ever feel like, man, I feel like I'm taking one step forward, two steps back, or how come it seems like when I'm doing the right thing, there's more opposition, stay tuned. We're going to see how Daniel handled it. Y'all be blessed. Y'all have a blessed night and be encouraged. God is with you. God sees. He knows. He hasn't forgotten about you. Be blessed.